So now we will be discussing upon something called as date and time functions. Now, as you know, date being one of the important component in terms of the data formats and the natures of data which are there, and time is also one of the crucial component which is there. So what are certain functions which are associated with them with respect to Excel? We are going to understand them. So in this module or in this part, we are going to understand what are the date related operations, how does date and time functions execute, and how do we implement the same. So when I talk upon date and time functions, now date and time functions are used when working with date, time and duration data, which can help us perform operations such as measuring the number of days between two dates, or I can calculate the difference between 2 days. I can get today's date automatically with the help of system. I can get the date and time which is happening into the system, which is with the function of now, and merging multiple dates with one date as a function. So date and time functions can take date elements from multiple operations or multiple locations, and we can do certain operations with them. Now, obviously this date related operations are important. Why? Because if the date is not in the proper format, the date related functions are not going to work. They are not going to give us a desired outcome for the same. So let's see what all functions are required in terms of understanding what are date functions and how do we implement the same and how do logically we use them. So if you can see on the screen, I have certain blocks which I have mentioned. So if you can see on the screen, we would be implementing certain date functions which are used. Let's say the very first is today. Now, if you can see on my system, the date of today is 10th of October 2024. Now, I'll not manually incorporate it or I'll not manually insert it. I'll ask Excel to automatically take the today's date or whatever is the recent date which my file is utilizing. So I'll write equals to today. If you can see, returns the current date formatted as date. Current date is the recent date which is happening today. Now if you can see, this function is like today and I just have to enter. You can see the date which was mentioned into my system, the same date is available over here. So imagine if I open this file tomorrow or day after tomorrow, the date is also going to change automatically with respect to the recent date of the system. That is the purpose of a today as a date function. So I can grab the current date of my system with the help of today function. Now there is another function known as now. Now what is the purpose of now? It does not only makes us available, it does not only give, it doesn't only provide you the current date, but it also provides you with the time operation for the same. So if I talk upon this, so there is an option of now. So you can see, I can take this now function over here and then enter. You can see the date with respect to what is the time. Now if I do certain operations after 10 minutes, 15 minutes or 20 minutes, the time is accordingly going to change. So this was today and now. Today will give me the current date of the system and now will give me current date as well as the time. Now if I want to talk upon another function which is known as a date function. Now date as a function is used to create a date related outcome or format of date which is feasible for my system. Now what is the meaning of that? If you see in my system, there could be month, day and year which is being extracted for the same. So the very first part of my system date format is month, the second part which it incorporates is day, and the third one is which is incorporated is year. So if I write something like 23, if I write something which is 23 and if I write 05 and if I write a random date of 2022, you could see this is a date which is there. So this is a random date which is 23rd May 2022. But if you can see, the approach over here is what? General. Now what does general means? There is no specific format for the same. So this doesn't have any specific format of date, time or so on. So this is not there. So if I try to utilize a function, now there is a function known as year. Now what is the purpose of year function? That it will extract the year. If you can see, return the year of a date and integer value ranging from 1900 to 999 and so on. So I am doing year and I take this date and I'm doing it. Obviously there is a date and it should extract 2022 for me, but it's giving me a value error. This value error is shown just because my date was not in a specific format of date. So that is very important. When you are utilizing date related functions, the nature of date or the approach of date related operations needs to be in proper format. So here I can go in general and you can see there is a short date option. I can change it in date, but if you can see, the value has not yet changed because still it's not into the date format. Why it is not? Because of my system. If you see my system, if you see the date of my system, what is the date it is requiring? It is asking me first the month, then the day and the year. Obviously 23 could not be a month over here for me, and that's not a specific date format which is given to me. So I can remove, let's say I'll write month. So let's say I write month, day and the year for the same date. Can you see this function worked? Can you see that 2022 was extracted when the date was in the proper format which is required? So utilizing a date into its proper format is very important and it's very ideal to use. So this is how the date related operations are very crucial. When the value which has or consists of date, that needs to be in proper format. If it is not, then the date related operations or functions are not going to execute for us. So if I want to utilize, so by default it's 1900. So here if you can see, when I'm doing certain operations, you can see this time has changed. We started at 12:35 and it's now 12:39. So it's a now function. It is going to change the values every now and then because it's taking the recent or it's capturing the recent values which are happening. So now in terms of date, imagine if someone has given me month, someone has given me day, someone has given me year, but I don't want or I don't know how it could be incorporated into a proper date format. They have separately given me the month number, the day number and the year which is there. So how I can utilize it? I can use a function known as date. So if you can see, returns the number that represents the date in Microsoft Excel date time code. So it according to the date time operation or date time value which is shown. So what is the year? Let's say the date which we mentioned was 2022. Month, what is a month which we want? I want the month as May, so 05. And what is a day which we require? What day which we require? The day is 23. And you can see I have got the date into the format which is required into my Microsoft Excel. And you can see first it is grabbing the month, then day and then year. So this is how a date function would be useful for us in order if I have just separately values of date, month and year, I can combine them together and create a proper date with the help of date function. So this is how date function helps us to execute the task. Now, as you have seen with an example which I showed you, that with this date, if I just want to grab or extract the year related operations, so I can just use which function over here, that is year. And I take this date. From this date, what is a year? 2022. Let's say in this date, instead of 2022, I give as 2025. And you can see the year which is extracted as 2025. Why? Because I've selected the cell. So the values are changing in the cell. So same values are being utilized over here. So this is a year function which can extract a year from my particular date. Now there is something called as month. what month function will do? It will extract the month number. So here you can see there is a function known as month. Now month, what is the serial number? I'll give this date, and from this date, what is a month? The month number is 5. And if you can see, when I incorporate over here, it is giving me the month number as 5. You can see from this date, 5 number is the month number and it has been extracted. Now, let's try to extract the day. Which day was there on that particular date? So, here I'll use a function known as day. You can see we have day. What is a date? This. And what is a day from that date? 23. 23 is a day, 5 is a month, and 2025 is the year which is being extracted from that day. So if I want to extract certain elements from a date, this is how I extract. I have extracted year, I have extracted month, I have extracted day. But as I mentioned above, if this date is not in the format of how an Excel requires or how your system requires, it's obviously not going to help us to extract those features from my date. So date being one of the crucial component, it needs to be into proper format. So this was the basic date related functions which were there. So let's imagine that I have joined an organization. I've joined an organization on 23rd of September 2022. Obviously, that's my joining date at that particular organization, and I have left the organization on 23rd May 2024. So I have joined the organization on 23rd September 2022 and I have left the organization on 23rd May on 2024. So what do you think? So how many days I have worked in that organization? Which means I want to calculate the difference between these two dates. Now, obviously that I have not worked every day. So I've worked from 2022 to 2024. In a year, there would be 52 weeks. And there would be possibly Saturdays and Sundays coming in where I would be having holidays for the same. So not all the number of days I have worked. I have worked for a certain number of days. So how I will calculate that same, that how many days I have worked upon. Which means I want to calculate the difference or the number of days which I have worked upon. So there are operations related to that, which is, let's say we have an operation known as network days. Now there are two operations. Network days returns the number of whole work days between two dates, and then there is international where I can customize it based on certain parameters. So here if you can see, network days is networking days which we will do. Now the start date is this, that's my start date, and the end date that I started working in an organization on 23rd September 2022 and I left the organization on 23rd May 2024. Obviously, I would be having certain leaves, so considering Saturdays and Sundays as a leave. So, how many days do you think so I have worked upon? I have worked upon 435 days in that organization. It's a good set of values which I have worked in that organization. So number of days I have worked in an organization is 435, which is there. Now, if you can see in this, there is a start date, there is an end date, and then there is a holiday, which is there. Imagine that in this working days, there was 15th of August. You must be knowing 15th August, right? 15th August is the Independence Day and it has a leave for me. So on 2023, obviously I joined on September's 2022, so 2022 date would not be available for me. So on 2023, month is August. Let's say January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. So I write 7, 8, and day. Day is what? 15th for me. So this was the day when we had holiday. Now 26th of January, obviously there was a holiday, so I'm using a date function. 26th of January, so 2023's January was available for me. Month is 01 and day is 26. So at that day I was having a leave on the Republic Day. Similarly, 26 January of 2024 was also a leave. So 2024 for me on January was a leave, that is 26, which is there. And imagine there was a birthday leave for me, which means equals to date. Now in that organization, my birthday is on 2023, month is 5 and days, let's say 23. So 2023, 25 and 2023 is my birthday. The birthday was on this day. So this were the days when I had holidays, which means I had considered leaves. Now obviously there would be other leaves, but these days I don't want to be counted into my working days. So these were the days where I actually was not working. So this was Independence Day. This was Republic Day. This was another Republic Day. And this was my birthday. So these were the days when I was not actually working into organization, and I don't want these days to be counted into my working days. So what I can do over here is I can exclude those days. Instead of writing and mentioning one day at a time, let's try to see over here. So here if you see start date and end date is there, and then you can see holidays. Now holidays is not particularly a mandatory parameters, but whenever a parameter is in square bracket, which means it's not mandatory. But even if we give, it's fine. So in this holidays, let me select this cells. That these cells are there when I considered holidays for the organization. So initially, if you see, so total working days with holidays. So let me wrap this text and let's say I'll try to copy the same thing over here. So total working days without holidays, and I just have to do over here, that is network days, which is start date and an end date. So with this I can see without holidays I was working in an organization for 435 days. But with holidays, there were 4 holidays which were majorly considered by me. So if I exclude this working days, it is taking me 431. Obviously, if there would have been a Saturday or Sunday, that would have not been considered into the count. But here, what I have tried to do, I have tried to calculate the difference between the 2 days with respect to my working capability or my working number of days into an organization. So this is how an Excel with respect to date can also be helpful for us in terms of finding how many days a particular person has worked in an organization. So this was the networking days part. Imagine that I was a person who was not having holidays on Saturdays. I was just having holidays on Sundays, but here it is considering Saturday and Sunday. So what I could do with leaves on with day off, my actual day off was on Sunday, not Saturday and Sunday. So what I'm doing, I am having net working days international. Now you can see start date, end date, and then there is another factor known as weekend. So what it is So let's take the start date and end date because we know this is there. And let's take the weekend part. If you can see, weekend is Saturday and Sunday, which means these 2 days are leaves. Then if you see the week off is on Sunday and Monday, there could be certain organization who have Sunday and Monday. There could be certain organization which has Monday and Tuesday. There could be certain organization which has Tuesday and Wednesday and so on. So as per my question, I was only having week off on Sundays. So that days to be considered. So weekend is what? It's only on Sunday for me. The leaves are only on Sundays. So Saturday's days are also working for me. Now, holidays. Obviously, I took this holidays. This is also not mandatory, so I can exclude it. But I have 4 holidays into my bucket. So it's there and you can see. So it's obviously greater than these days because Saturdays, which were obviously not counted over here, have been counted. Why? Because I was an employee in that organization where I was working on Saturdays as well. When you go and see on the basis of networking days or the network days as a parameter, it is excluding the Saturdays and Sundays from the start date and end date. Wherever the Saturday and Sunday was there, it was not counting. But I as an employee was working on Saturdays as well and I want that days to be counted. So I have used Networking International where I can select when I was having weekends or week offs and that days will be excluded and rest of them would be included. Also, I can decide if I want to include holidays into my networking days or not. So this is how I have used an approach in order to find the differences or the working days of an employee. So this is how I have tried to use or find the networking days of an employee working in an organization. Most of the date related operations are very vividly used in the finance market. Why? Because the date variations are very important. The date wise change is very important for them to track and understand what are the variations happening or how many days difference were there, how the values were there between 2 particular date components. And this is how a date related operation is working. Now, imagine someone gave me this date. Let me copy this date over here. Control C and let me copy this date. Now, someone said that in this date, we want you to add 10 more days. Now, we want you to add 10 more days. How you would be doing? Now, addition in dates is very easy. How do we add in dates? It's simple. You take this operation and you just have to do plus. Plus what? Plus how many days do I want? I want 5 days. Sorry, 10 days. So I want how many days to be added in the particular date? 10. Now, is it going to help for us? Yes, because it's similar to the date operations. So it is just going to sum up 10 days in the date. So now what was there? 23. So 23 plus 10 based on the month which is there. So what it is going to give me? 2, which is there. It is not giving me 3 because it could be a month of 31 days. So it has given me what? 2 over here. That is 2nd of June. So 10 days after that days is what? 2nd of June for me. Now, here if you see, it's a static value. Let's say whatever date I mention, whatever number of days I mention over here, it should sum up in the given date. So I have not mentioned anything, so I have selected a cell. Now I say I want 5 days after the date. You can see 5 days after the given date is this. I want 10 days after the given date is this. If I want 15 days after the given date, it's like this. So when I just sum up a date with a particular number or a numeric value or an integer, what it actually does is it takes the day and it sums the value of that. So if you can see with an example, 23rd May was there when we sum up 5. So 24, 25, 26, 27 and 28 was the answer for us when we sum up 15. So it is trying to count 15 days after the 23. So this was all about date plus the number of days. So date plus number of days further. We can do like this. Let me copy the format over here. This is there and this is how it has been utilized. Now what if I want to count number of months? Like say date is there and what do I want to do? Date plus number of months means 2 months after the given date, 3 months after the given date. How I will do? So in order to do that, the normal plus operation which we do is just summing up the days. But if we want to sum up the month, we have EO, end of the month. So returns the serial number of the last day of the month before or after the specified number of months. So number of months would be there. So what's the start date for me? This is the start date. Number of months. So I want to see after 2 months. So number of months is going to be 2 months. So here you can see the end date of that 2 months. So 5th, 6th and 7th. So 7th month ka last date which is there. So after 2 months, let's say you want to see before 2 months. So what you do for the before 2 months? You write, if you want to see the date after 2 months, you'll write a particular integer. If you want to see before, you will write minus. That gives me before date. So 5th, 4th and 3rd month, the last date of that 3rd month it is given. Now there is end of the month and then there is E date as a function. So indicated number, if you see I give this and I want 2 months after that. So now if you can see, it's a date related operation but the answer over here is a numeric form. Here the date format is not there. So I have to go over here and change it to the date format. And you can see based on this given date, it is showing me the 2 months after date. It is not giving me end of the month date. So there is E date. So based on the given date, it will calculate the 2 months later or the number of months later date value. But E0, that is end of the month, what it does? After 2 months, what is the month ka end date? That would be given. So if you can see, if I write 2 over here, you can see 7th month ka last date is given by end of the month. And here if you see, with respect to 23, the 2nd month has been given. So 6th and 7th. So 23 is being given out for us. So this was how we sum up the month related operations into my date. As you can see, there is a date and with respect to that date, I want to calculate another date which is 10 months after or 2 months after a particular date format. Obviously, I cannot use this plus 10 over here because it's just giving me 10 days later. So when you just simply do an addition, what it is doing, it is just adding a particular number with respect to the days which are there, but I want to add or sum up months. So how the month wala operation will work is, now there are 2 month related operation. In order to add a month related approach, we have 2 months. First is what? E date. What does E date does is, whatever date is mentioned to us with respect to that days, let's say it's 23rd May, so 2 months after would be 23rd July. So that would be given to us. So E date will give me the number of months added with respect to that date which is there. So here plus how many months do I want? That is 10 or let's say 2. So this I have added sorry, it's like comma 2. So you can see 2 months later, that particular date it was 23rd May, so it has given me 23rd July. Now there is one more function. If I want to see 2 months before this particular date, so for a before statement, I obviously write minus. So minus 2 months I want to do. So you can see 23rd of March is what is shown over here. Now with respect to this, there is one more function in order to find the calculation of month with a particular date. So there is end of the month. Now what does end of the month do? Let's say it's 23rd May and you want to count 2 months later. It would be 23rd July. But it's not going to give me 23rd July, it is going to give me the end date of that month. Now, if I consider there is a start date and there is month, let's say I write 2. If you could see the difference between this, let's say I make it 2. If you could see the difference, date has just calculated the exact difference between the two dates. But end of the month is giving me the difference between or the addition of the months, and it is giving me the end date of the month which is being extracted. So it's 31st of July which is showing to us. Now if I want to see the before factor, it's obviously the same. It's like minus 2. So you can see it was March and it is showing me the end date of the March. So this is how it looks, where I can calculate the date with respect to the number of months. It could be 10 months, 2 months, or the number of months before, or it could be 10 months, 2 months, or number of months after. So this is what we have seen. Now with respect to this date, let me copy this, Ctrl C, and let me paste it over here, so Ctrl V, and here date with respect to number of years. Now this is a date, and if you can see, we were just using summation symbol. It was summing up with respect to days. We were using date, which was doing with respect to months. Now we have to sum up or do addition into the date or subtraction into the date with respect to the years, the number of years. Obviously we cannot use date as a function, normal date as a function, or month as an operation. But there is no function related to year. If you can see, there is but it's month and so on. There is nothing related to year. So we will take help of date, but just will modify the month approach over there. So date, what is the start date over here? This is the start date. Now months. Now let's say in months, I want after 2 years. I want after 2 years. So here I am writing 2. Obviously 2 years is going to have how many months for me? 12. So this multiplication symbol, this star or this asterisk is a multiplication symbol. That 2 into 12, that is 2 into 12, that is 12 into 2, 24. So 24 months, that gives 2 years for me. And here you can see date after 2 years is going to be this. Now if someone said that before 2 years, so it's going to be minus. So minus 24 months, this is how it shows. So when it comes to calculating n number of years before and n number of years after, there is no year as a function. We modify the date function as well, date function itself, in order to find out the number of years before and number of years after the particular given date. So this is how the date functions and the calculations with respect to date works. One more point to remember, that if the date is not in proper format, these operations are of no use. They will not be fruitfully applicable for us. So this was a date related functions which were there. Now there is one more date related function which is used to find out the difference. Now that is known as DATEDIF. Known as date difference. Now what does DATEDIF function do is, let's say I have my birth date and I find difference on the basis of today. So I have birth date and I have to find out the difference on the basis of today. Let me create an approach and let me do this. So imagine my birthday is on, let's say I'll give date function so that it becomes very easy for me to get a proper date format. So date, let's say it was 1998, and month was 5, and day was 23. So this was my birthday, and here you can see this is there, and today. Now you must be knowing today as a function. We will get today's date. So I want to calculate how many years are completed to me, how many months I have completed, and how many days I have completed the same. Now how I will do is, I'll use a function. That function is known as DATEDIF, known as date difference. Now this is how you write. So DATEDIF, you have to write DATEDIF and then a bracket. Now in this DATEDIF, what is the first value which would be given? It's the start date. Now what is the beginning date? That's my birthday. So here if you can see, that is a beginning date, that's my birthday, comma. And the another date, that's my end date. I can obviously mention today, or I can select this date. That's my end date. That are the two dates which I want to find out. So there is one day and then there is another day. Now if someone wants to find out, as me, I was born on 23rd May 1998 and I want to find how many years I have completed today. So I can write a format of Y. What does Y means over here? Y means year. So how many years are completed to me? 26. So this is how I can find out the difference between the two dates with respect to years. Now if someone asks me how many months are completed to you, so I'll write DATEDIF again, and here I'll mention the birth date and today, because I want to find with respect to today. If I want to find on the basis of given day, instead of today I'll write this today. And what with respect to what I want to find? With respect to months. So for years I wrote Y, for months I write M. So from the day I was born till today, how many months I have completed? 316 months I have completed. Now if someone says how many days are completed from the birth till today, so I'll write what? DATEDIF. And what is the date? This is the start date. What is the date? That's the end date. What's the end date for me? Today. And what is the value for me? Now for days I'll write D. So how many days I have completed? From the birth date till now I have completed 9,637 days. So this is a calculation with respect to the differences which I have calculated. Now I want to find out that, let's say I have completed 26 years. So after completing 26 years, how many months I have completed till now? Let's say 26 years are completed to me on May. So after May till today, how many months? Because this M is finding me the total number of months right from the birth date. But what if I want to find after completing 26 years, how many months I have completed till today? So for that we just have to do slight modification. That would be, I'll do DATEDIF, that is for sure. Now that's the start date, my end date is today, that's going to be same for us. Now as I said, after completing 26 years. So first I will write after completing 26 years. Then I will write M. So it will find out the, first it will divide the year wala part, and then whatever is the month pending for us, that would be given. And you can see after completing 26 years till today, what is the month which I have completed? There are 4 months completed, because it's like May, June, July, August, September. Now we are in October, but we have not reached 23. So obviously it is going to show me 4 months which are there. So now there is something called as day, which means after completing 4 months, how many days I have completed. Obviously the 4th month I have completed on 23rd of September. So October, till from 23rd of October I have completed how till today, sorry. So obviously I have completed 4 months on 23rd of September. So after 23rd of September till today, how many days do I have been there? So here I have write DATEDIF, and with that DATEDIF, what I am going to do is this, and there is a start date, here end date, what's the end date for me today, and what's the format, what do I want after completing 4 months, how many days are completed. So month difference and then D. So after completing 4 months were completed on 23rd of September. So till now how many days are being done? 17 days which are there. So this is what it has been calculated for me. So this was the date related operations which we discussed. Now date and time related operations are helpful for us in terms of finding how dates would be useful, how they would be helpful for us in terms of calculation, and what all functions we can utilize on the same when we want to interact with date related values which are available to us in terms of our data set. I can generate a current date, I can generate a current time as well as date. I can also find out the difference between them. So this is how it works with respect to date. Now with date as a component, there is also a component known as time. Now what does time component do? It will help me to find out the data with respect to hours, minutes and seconds. You must be knowing that time is an operation which helps us to do calculations with hours, minutes and seconds. So there is some operations. Here if you can see, I have the time which is given to me, that is 11, 25 and 30, but it's PM. Now PM in the sense with a world clock or 24-hour cycle, it would be 23, 25 and 30. So if I want to extract hours from the same, so if you can see when I am going over here, the time, this is a time operation which is happening, that needs to be there if I want to use the time related functions. Now there is a function known as hour. Now returns the number of hour which is there, which is 0 if 12 am and 23 if 11, which is there. So now if you see serial number, I'll give this is a date, and when I give this, it's showing me 23. Why do you think so it's showing me 23? Because of this PM. 11, 25, 30. It's a 24-hour cycle which is given to me. And with respect to 24-hour cycle, 11, 25, so 11 hours, 25 minutes and 30 seconds PM post meridian, it's 23 with respect to the total 24-hour cycle. So if I do AM in the sense 412, and you can see the number of hours which are changing, it is showing me 11. So the time related component is also very important in terms of extracting the hours. If it's not in proper format, will not be able to specify a proper outcome for the same. So if I do PM, you can see it's going to show me a 24-hour cycle. Now minutes, how many minutes are there? So the format of time is HH, that's hour, colon, MM, that's minutes, colon, SS, that's second. So here minutes, how we can extract minutes? So here if you can see minute, you're not going to do min. Min means minimum. We are not finding the minimum value, we are finding the minutes. So minute as a function which is there, so here I'll take this, and how many minutes are there? 25. And here if I take this, there is a function known as second. So search is not there, sec is not there, it's an angle, it's a mathematical operation. So where we have to use what? Second. So how does second do? I'll take this, and how many seconds are there? 35. So this is how it is being extracted. There are certain instances where this date, let's say I select this, so this date could be shown in a general approach in this manner. This could be an operation, that date related operations are in this manner. When you have mentioned time but it's not in the customized format which is required, or not in the proper format which is required, and when you try to use an approach of hour on the same, it's working but it's not giving you a proper visibility that how does it works. So it's better when you have date in this format, go into this number formatting option and change it to what? Change it to the time operation which is there. So this is how date and time functions help us for us. Now date and time functions are very crucial because that is a very sensitive nature of data which we have, and handling them, utilizing them or approaching them in a proper manner, storing them and making it valid in a proper manner is utmost important for our lots of tasks which can happen with respect to this set of data. So this was all about date and time related functions. So I hope it is understandable for you all.
Like this video, subscribe to our channel and comment on the concept you want to learn next.